One of my favorite cities in the world. Do you know what I just ate an hour and a half ago?
Cheesesteak.
No, cheesesteak spring rolls. Okay? Think about that. It's the greatest thing I've ever had in my life. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I've been taking this around the country, and this was a stop I was really looking forward to. And I really, really, really appreciate you guys coming to see this crazy movie we made.
You guys enjoy it? Yeah.
Thank you.
I was telling you out in the hall that this sort of builds and builds and builds into a point where there was one guy in the audience who was like, "Oh shit!" Like it just.
That's what we were going for. We want the oh shit, the scared oh shit. That's what we're going for.
Tell me about the pressure of, you know, when you're in a movie and it doesn't turn out well, you can say, "Oh, it was the direction," or you can say, "Oh, it was the writing." But when you're responsible for the direction and the writing and starring in it, it must put a little bit of pressure on you.
I would just blame the other actors. I would say Tiffany Haddish didn't deliver. She didn't hit it out of the park. Yeah, no, it is a lot of pressure, and every movie I've ever done, I've always been kind of just like a day player, but this is really. Jordan Peele saw this movie and he goes, "You put your soul into a film. It's you in a film. So if people really hated it, that means they hate my soul." That's very sad. So the pressure is high.
When you started writing this, when did you start writing this?
Do you guys remember the 2016 presidential election? You guys remember that? That Thanksgiving, we always do like a big Thanksgiving at my house, and my folks came out from Chicago, and my brother was there. That was my real brother in the movie, by the way. I don't know if you know that. Yeah. He's such a dick in it. So am I. But after dinner, we were sitting around, possibly drinking a little bit, and my mom and my brother and I got this big argument about the election, and we were kind of blaming each other. It's your fault and this, and I woke up the next day and I said to my wife, I was like, "Oh my God, we were all on the same side. We voted for the same person, but we were fighting and getting really into it." And I was just thinking, what's going on at other holiday tables around the country? And then as I started talking to friends of mine that were traveling back home, and I started talking to some of my family in Ohio, I knew that the landscape of the American holiday table was forever changed. And so I wanted to kind of take that feeling, that kind of claustrophobic, stressful feeling of being in that house that week of Thanksgiving, and just kind of blow it up.
Was there ever a concern that by the time the movie came out, this would be more dark and less comedy?
Yeah, I keep checking Twitter to make sure this hasn't happened in real life yet. But the crazy thing is, is while we were making it, different steps along the way, things were happening in the news that were echoing what we were doing in the movie. As I was writing it, I knew I wanted to do something about loyalty, the concept of loyalty. And early on in the process, I don't know if you guys remember, early on, Trump had a cabinet meeting where they all went around in a circle and they're like, "I will be loyal to you, sir." And then, a few months later, he infamously pinned down Jim Comey and was like, "Oh, loyal? Can I count on you? You're gonna be loyal?" And then, after we shot it, the day we were going to show it to some folks, there was something called National Loyalty Day, which I'd never heard of. It's existed for a while, but we've never had a president or an administration so obsessed with loyalty. So it was this kind of weird case of life copying art, which was already kind of copying life. So yeah, it was real scary.
I appreciated though that it's not one-sided in the sense where you see that both sides are imperfect.
Yes. Yeah.
Even though one side is maybe a little more right than the other side, there's still faults on both sides.
I think, there's a version of this movie where my character, who is the most liberal, I would say, where he is right and he behaves beautifully and he has a six-pack, and that doesn't ring true to me for a lot of reasons. So, it was important that while the movie kind of does take a side in the sense that bad things are in the air and could get a lot worse, we wanted to really show all sides and kind of the crazy behavior on all sides, and how the current political environment and the kind of 24-hour nonstop barrage of news is kind of taking relatively normal people and just kind of breaking their brain. So we wanted to kind of show that whole spectrum.
I got sort of National Lampoon Vacation vibes from
My
it.
favorite comedy of all time.
So especially when Chris and his father had that little pep talk outside, it's very much like
Rusty and good talk, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. So I appreciate that it's like that, but to this kind of a more psychotic level.
Yeah, if Clark was going to tell Rusty it was okay to kill someone, it would have been that. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I definitely drew from my love of the 80s comedies a little bit here.
How did you get a movie like this made? I mean, it's obviously so difficult to get movies made, especially independent films. How did that come about?
We, right when I kind of broke the story and knew it was about Jordan Peele and a few other people, so you got to bring this to QC Entertainment. These guys, Sean McKittrick and Ray Mansfield, they did Get Out and they did Black Klansman, and they have money to make movies, not a lot of money, but they like to take movies that have some social relevance and are kind of being reflective of what's happening in America now. And they read it right away and said, let's do it. And so it happened very quickly, and it was definitely always going to be an independent film because there's not a studio that's going to be like, oh great, we'll put a ton of money into this, because they're all owned by giant corporations. But these guys really, I think they're looking to tell stories that kind of mean something to us during 2018.
Why did you choose to kidnap Seth Rogen?
He's fine. He's got a big bag of weed. He's happy. Initially, I wanted it to be Mark Ruffalo, but I don't know. I'm not friends with Mark Ruffalo. I'm friends with Seth Rogen, and I can get his picture a lot easier. And also, just if you see a picture of Mark Ruffalo being, and he's kidnapped, he's got those big mournful eyes. It might be too sad. Seth Rogen, you're like, what?
And you have, with Tiffany Haddish, one of the hottest stars right now. Were you friends with her from comedy, or?
No, it's so funny. I first remember seeing her in, do you guys see the movie Keanu? Ever see that movie? Great movie, right? I loved her in that. I thought she was so great.
Cat kidnap movie.
Cat kidnap movie.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, she'd be a good wife for me. And so, she had read the script and she was really starting to, Girls Trip had just come out and she was starting to take off, but she read the script. And she's like, I've never seen this movie before. It's about what's happening now, and I want to do it. But I kept expecting to get that call where she would call me and be like, yo, I can't. I'm in Star Wars now. I'm a Sith Lord. and that call never came, and she just showed up, and she's so good at it, right? It's like a new thing that I'm saying to her, and she's a national treasure.
This movie goes so far, but it gets to the line. Maybe it steps over it a little bit. Was there anything in this that you considered over the line, that you cut, maybe you pulled back a little bit on?
There was some talk initially in terms of the ending. There were some people early on who had read it and they said, you have to kill him. He has to die. People have to die. And I really resisted that urge. I wanted the movie to have an optimistic ending. I wanted the movie, to mirror how I feel, which, believe it or not, despite everything, I am optimistic about America. I truly am. And I know that's a little easy. It's a little easy privilege for a white man to be like, we're going to be fine, don't worry, folks. But I am. I think, America is bigger and stronger than any one president or administration. And in this darkness, I do see these little beacons of light everywhere. And I see 16-year-old kids being like, I can't wait to turn 18 so I can vote. And when I see things like that, when I see, exciting new young candidates coming in and breathing, I feel, we're still in this kind of maelstrom a little bit, and it's still hurting, and people are hurting on a very deep level. But I do feel that that we will make it out of this, and we have to kind of do it together.
Before we take questions from the audience real quick, when people watch this, is there a message that you hope that they take away from it, aside from the hope, maybe turn off the cable news for a minute to disconnect a little bit?
That's one of them, but I'd say the main kind of takeaway I'm hoping for is, first of all, I want to make people laugh a little bit and scare them a little bit and freak them out. But to me, I have a lot of friends who, when I read online, people who said, well, I'm just never talking to my dad again. I'm never going to talk to my uncle again. And that can't be good. That can't be good. And to me, the overall message to me is, excuse me, Philly cheesesteak spring roll. The message is we have an obligation, not just as Americans, but as brothers and daughters and husbands and sisters, to try our best to not let these external forces that are bearing down on us, which ultimately we have marginal control over, right? We can vote, sure we vote, and we can, affect change on our small level, but these forces that we don't have control of, we can't let them permanently disable our relationships with our family and our friends. And it's going to be tough. And look, I'm not telling you what to do. If you have an uncle who's like, I only listen to Alex Jones, okay, you can hit the pause button on him. But I do think that when this does pass, I think we would be remiss if we had kind of cut these tethers. And what would happen is it will make our bubbles smaller and thicker. And it'll be hard to get back from. So my ultimate dream is someone walks out of this movie and is like, that was funny and scary. I should call my brother. That would be like the perfect kind of takeaway for me from this.
Well, let's take some questions from the audience. Who would like to be first?
Right here.
So who called?
He asked who called. Good question. Who'd you think?
Katie.
The blonde girl, Abby? Abby, Katie, Abby, Katie. Does anyone else have any guesses? Brother. Co-worker. The answer is, there is no answer. And I'll tell you why. I dropped breadcrumbs, right? I wanted you to guess. I dropped a lot of breadcrumbs around Max Greenfield, my co-worker. I dropped some breadcrumbs, obviously, around Abby/Katie. My brother, my mom was someone I kind of thought could be interesting. But for me, I was never going to tell, and the reason is I'm really interested in. I've always been fascinated by McCarthyism and the Red Scare, and one of the things that was so frustrating about that was you could get called a communist, right? You get brought up, to Congress, to HUAC, and you think in your head, you're like, I know it's my business partner. I know he's the one who ratted me out. But then it would end up being like the guy who makes your sandwich and you didn't tip him. Or you would never know. And that kind of feeling of not knowing, I wanted Chris I wanted him for this moment to put it behind him. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Mason could come back and blow the whole house up. And we know what happened the 24 hours before that, but at this moment, he's alive, they're all alive, and he just wants to go home and be with his loved ones and eat some pie, which is kind of what we all want, I think. Is there going to be a second one? If you guys tell your friends to come to the theater on October 19th. I don't know. I don't know. I know that me and the producers are kind of working on a new story, similar in the sense where it's all about kind of what's going on right now. It's a little more emphasis on social media and interacting with people on social media, but I think if this movie comes out and people really love it, and maybe they all go on a cruise next year. They go to Hawaii. The Oath to Hawaii.
The squeakquel.
The squeakquel.
Yeah, I was wondering how you directed and acted at the same time. I know John Krasinski did that with his recent movie. Like, I was just wondering how that is on set. Like, do you, in between takes, do you direct the other actors on the set, stuff like that?
Yeah, I pretty much do everything except call, cut, and action, because that'd be kind of weird if I'm looking at Tiffany Haddish's eyes and I'm in character and I'm like, I love you, cut. I think it'd be weird. So, but everything else, we really prepared a lot. We over-prepared, and we knew we only had a short amount of time to shoot it. So, pretty much the crew was so great, and so kind of we were all just in sync that I was able to, in the moment focus on the acting, but then also in between, sorry, these cheesesteak spring rolls were so, I ate them like that. I was able to kind of still, tell, people what to do. But calling action and cut, I said, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Are you difficult to direct?
Yeah, Seth Rogen actually told me, he goes, when you're directing yourself, give yourself more takes because you won't be as good as you think you are because you're not in your right mind. So so I actually gave myself a little more room because normally I'm like, I got this, but you're right, and you're so focused on other stuff, you don't get a chance to really give yourself that time. So I try to do that.
Yes. How long did it take to film this movie?
We shot this whole thing in 20 days. Wow. 20 days. We had, it is in one primary location, so that was working for us. But, we shot it between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and had a very in-demand cast. Tiffany was doing 10 things, and John Cho and stuff. So we really broke it down, and I hired an A student to be my line producer, and she really made sure that we had enough time to get it right, but we didn't have a lot of time to prep and stuff. But it was fast and furious. Hi, right there.
I want to talk about the music.
Great.
When it was leading up to the days, and it was like looking at the time it's supposed to come out, I was thinking to myself, it was scary. Yeah. And then I'm like, it's coming out around Halloween.
Yeah.
But I love the music. It was like, it got more sinister as the days went by.
Initially, I wasn't going to put any music in it because sometimes there's a great director named Sidney Lumet who I love. He never put music. He never had a score in his movies. And I was like, I'm not going to do a score. I'm not going to do a score. And like every friend of mine, like Seth, Jordan, Mindy, they were all like, you should do some kind of score, just something. So I had my sound engineer, who's also a composer, also the lead singer of the band Crazy Town. Huh, fun fact. We spent about 3 or 4 days kind of, talking about having this kind of ominous tone and kind of having it slightly build until by Friday you're just like, I want out. And then Saturday, nothing, back to quiet.
Was that your house?
No, I wish. You think I have a pool? Oh my God. We shot this in Chatsworth in the Valley. First film to be shot there that wasn't a pornography. Wow. They shoot a lot of that in the Valley.
I was wondering what your character's specific job was that he afforded such a nice house.
We said that he owned a company that sold ad space on the internet. That's why on the whiteboard behind him it says Stockholm. I don't know. I guess they're gonna open in Stockholm. Right there.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask a political question, so sorry.
Go for it.
So first off, my favorite shot in the movie is you sitting on the bed watching the fire that is the news.
Yes.
Yeah. So my question to you is this. Hold on, I got a little nervous, so I have to get that right in my head because I want to ask it correctly.
Copy that.
Do you think the answer is to turn it off?
Not entirely.
Okay.
I think the answer is to find that balance. I don't know about y'all. A year up to that election and a year after, I was only watching the news all day. I was on the Twitter all day, driving my friends up the friggin' wall. Driving my wife one morning at 6:25 a.m. She was breastfeeding our newborn, and I'm reading some article about something Trump did, and I turned to her and I go, "America's lost." And she's like, "Hey, dude, it's 6:30 in the morning, man. Like, give me a break." The place I'm trying to get to now is really get that balance, right? I kind of treat my news intake almost like coffee. You have a cup in the morning, a cup around 10:30, maybe some decaf later on. I think you have to get to a place where you are plugged in enough where you're aware of what's going on so you can affect change on some level, but you can't let it overshadow everything else and completely take away from the things that you love. And I don't just mean like your family. I mean the simple things like going to a movie or watching a TV show or exercising or going to dinner. And I was really letting this stuff just take up all my bandwidth. And I think that's bad, and you can see in the movie it's very bad. So it's all about that balance.
Have you fought with Piers Morgan on Twitter yet?
I have fought with Piers Morgan. I said to him, I tweeted at him one time, literally no one likes you.
I mean,
it's so embarrassing that I did that. It's like I said to my wife, I go, I'm in a Twitter war with Piers Morgan. She's like, you're a loser.
I didn't know that. I was totally joking.
I remember it was a Sunday morning. Yeah, but I have. I cannot believe you just randomly asked me that. And it happened.
Joking.
It's so embarrassing. Yeah, Twitter moderation. Hi.
Hi. So there's a palpable visual in that one kind of does not look like the rest in the house, meaning that you have Tiffany Haddish as your wife. You know, you're in an interracial relationship, but you can see in some of the shots how obvious that is, like you're holding hands with her at the end, or like you get a shot of the table and you can see she's the only African-American person there. So my question to you is, was there any significance to being in an interracial relationship in the movie, or did that have any meaning or impact?
I've been asked that a lot, and the answer, honestly, is no. I kind of went, I put Tiffany first. I just thought she was so great and so powerful that I wanted to be paired up with her and to see her like that. But it does fit a little bit. It does kind of fit the look of a modern progressive American couple. But for me, it was more about Tiffany than it was trying to shine a light on the interracial aspect of it. But I have been asked that, but it was just because I was just so blown away by her inability to be inauthentic. Hi.
So I felt like I had to, first of all, I feel like I need a Xanax.
I sell them. I'll find you in the lobby.
I don't know if that was intentional, but good job on that.
Thank you.
I thought it was really interesting. Tiffany Haddish's character kind of forced us to put, or at least me, to put away some biases that I had, because in this movie she ended up becoming like a calming force for Chris.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking that I'm Chris.
Yes.
In my relationship, I'm Chris.
Yes.
And he's Tiffany.
Yes.
Right? And so when you were watching like the news and stuff, he's looking over at me.
Yep.
Like, see?
We need to start a support group.
I went on this entire journey with Chris.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I was ready for people to die. I was there, right? I thought it was interesting because I looked at Tiffany and I was like, that's me. But then like what you were doing or what Chris was doing was what I was feeling I wanted to do. And part of me was like, why isn't Tiffany doing this? Come on, Tiffany. Like, I wanted her to, like, I don't know, just it messed with me in that way. And I don't know if you could speak to, like, Tiffany as a calming, like, force for Chris.
You know, I really, truly did model her after my own wife, who does agree with me politically. She really does, but I was always a 10. And at first she was a 10, but then she's like a rational, smart woman, and like Kai in the movie. So that 10 became a 9, and then the 9 became an 8. And the further up I would go, the further she would go down. And to me, I thought the kind of fun part would be, we all know Tiffany Haddish, right? We all know, like, hey, you know, like that big, you know, just crazy, bodacious presence. So to show her internalizing that and like rolling her eyes and brushing her tongue while she shakes her head and just being kind of beaten down, people have not seen that yet from her. And then we do get, when that fuse goes off, we do get the, you know, shut the fuck up. So it is kind of, I think, a little different. We're kind of programmed to be like, well, she's gonna, you know, be the, you know, same as him. But I wanted to really show the wear and tear on her until she blows.
Thank you so much for bringing this movie to Philadelphia.
You guys, thank you guys so much, man. One of my favorite cities in the world. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Like Barinholtz. The Oak opens everywhere October 19th.